Welcome back, you guys, to part 2 of making these pockets. Okay, so in this video, we're actually going to create the shapes that are going to form our pockets. We are going to use a clipping mask to clip texture to those shapes. We're going to use the brush tool to add some shadows and give those pockets a more rounded appearance. And we're going to use the FX drop shadows to make those drop shadows and make it a little bit more dimensional, okay? So we'll go ahead and get started. So first of all, I am going to go ahead and lock these back layers so that nothing moves, okay? So that means that if I select anything on here, nothing is going to move. If I did not do that, let me go ahead and unlock one. If I'm trying to select something, it's going to go ahead and move that around, and we do not want that. So it's just as simple as engaging that little lock, okay? I'm going to tap on this top layer so that anything that I create will go above that layer, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create my shapes that I need to form my pockets. And we're going to keep it very simple for these videos. There's so much that you can do, but once you get the gist of it and the basics, then you'll be able to create so many great things. Your imagination is truly the limit here. So I'm going to start with this rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to start by forming my back pocket. So I'm just going to drag out a shape, and I'm going to try to match it to the size of the book. Just going to make it easier for me when I'm actually using it. And you kind of want to make it the size that you're going to want it to look in your planner, okay? That's going to be about right. Now, I want to change these corners. They're round. I like that. But I want to match them to the planner so that they lay better. I'm going to go ahead across the top toolbar over here. You're going to have a contextual menu that's going to give you options to work with those contours, okay? This third icon in this little matched corners, I want you to tap on it. And what that's going to do, as you can see, now you have different controls at each corner so that you can change them out separately. And that's what I want to do, because for this corner, I want to match it to that. So it looks like it's about a 15. That's great. And for this bottom corner, we're going to go with the 15 as well. Now, you can scroll across the top here on this contextual menu, and you can just plug in those numbers. But I will tell you that it's a little tricky because, and I hope that they're fixing this in the next update or at some point, because if you accidentally tap inside of one of these, you're going to go ahead and change those dimensions. So you want to find that division bar in the center and then tap on that. You see what I mean? It's just a little annoying. So I'm going to go back and do 15 on that one, and that was the top. And let me find the bottom left and do 15 on that one as well. This one here, I just want to keep it straight. And then this one, you can play with the look that you want, okay? For me, I'm going to keep that one at 15 as well. All right, perfect. I'm going to drag this down just a tad. Very good. Okay, so I have my back pocket done. All right, now I am going to hold down on the screen, and then you'll see that this pop-up menu comes out, and I'm going to hit duplicate. All right, if you go over to your layer menu, now you have 2 pockets, and the one that you just duplicated is selected. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change the color of that duplicated one so that you can see it better as I'm working through this tutorial, because right now it's just all going to blend into one, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that color bubble, and I'm just going to see if you drag in here with your pencil, you'll get different colors. I'm just going to drop it down to like a beige color so that you can see it when I'm working. And I'm just going to pull down. I'm going to pull down and I'm going to make that, we'll go about there. That's fine. Okay, so that's pocket number 2. And now I'm going to hold down on the screen again, and I'm going to duplicate that one. And as you can see, it automatically duplicated it and also made it smaller by the dimensions that we initially decreased the other one by. You don't have to keep that, but that's just a feature of Affinity Photo, okay? I'm going to go ahead and change that color a little bit so that we can see it. And actually, I'm going to bring this one up a little bit and this one down a little bit. There we go. So now we have our 3 shapes that are going to form our pocket, okay? Or our different layers of the pockets. Okay. And then while we're here, let's go ahead and make a shape of the background, okay? So in order to do that, we're going to grab our shape tool, and it's going to default to the last shape that you used, which is fine. That's exactly what I want. And I'm going to go ahead and drag a shape. And now I'm going to position it to line up kind of with the book. Now I do have my snapping turned on. That's why you see that it will snap to other shapes. That is useful when you're creating things. And that's this little magnet up here on the top right hand corner. Okay, you can shut that off and you can turn it on depending on what you're doing. So it's when you know it's on because it's a dark color, and when it's off, it's like a lighter gray color. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and snap that to it. Now I want to fix these corners because I want them to match the planner. So I'm going to go back and tap on that shape tool, and it's going to bring back my 4 points. Okay. So for this one, they're all going to be the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the corners, and we're going to go with 6 on these. It's going to work just fine. All right, so now we have our background shape as well. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a different color so that we know. And I'm going to drop that to the background so that we can see it. All right, so we have 4 pieces. We have 3 pockets, a tall one, a medium one, a short one. And then we have our back cover, okay? Now, as you can see, it's a pretty flat image. There is nothing going on here. This doesn't look like a pocket at all. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply some textures to these pieces, okay? I'm going to go ahead and turn off this background layer because we're going to work on the pockets, and then we'll do that background layer in another video. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some textures in here. So we're going to grab a clipping mask. We're going to use a clipping mask on these shapes to give it a texture. You can use whatever you want. I mean, there's so many resources available to find backgrounds. If you have a Creative Fabrica subscription, oh my God, there's so many textures on there. An image that you have, a digital paper that you have, whatever you want to add to your pockets, your notebook covers. This is a very similar process for that, okay? I am going to bring in, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to grab this cover for our journal, okay? And I'm going to just size it up a little bit, just so that I get like the pattern size that I want. That looks really good. And I'm going to go ahead and rasterize and trim that. And the reason why I do that, like I always say, if you don't do that and then you start performing some type of action on it and nothing is happening, it's usually because it's not rasterized, okay? Or if it's not working the way you thought it would, go back and rasterize and trim that. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is grab my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to select a little rectangle right in here. I'm going to hold down on the screen and I'm going to hit cut, and then I'm going to hold down again and hit paste and tap off to deselect. Okay, now that I can get rid of because all that I wanted was this little piece of texture. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bigger, and there is the texture that I am going to clip into those shapes to form my pockets. So I will be needing 4 copies of that. So I'm going to hold down on the screen, duplicate, hold down, duplicate, hold down, duplicate. And if you open up your layer panel, you can see that we have now 4 different copies of that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and shut some off and work with 1. All right. So here's my texture. I am going to bring it over where my tall pocket is. And all that you're going to do to create your clipping mask is to hold on to that layer and just drag it into your pocket. Okay? And as you can see, it is now clipped in there. You have your rounded corners and everything is inside of there. Okay, perfect. So now let's turn on our medium pocket. We'll turn on another texture. We'll grab this texture. We'll bring it over. Okay. And well, let's turn our medium pocket. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab onto that layer and we're going to drag it into that. Okay. And now we have our medium pocket all done. Okay. We're going to grab our next texture, drag it over, and drag that one in to our short pocket. Okay, and we have that one done. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab this leftover one and put it up here because we'll be using that one later for the background. All right, so here we go. Actually, let me put it down here and keep those 2 together. Okay, so now we have our 3 shapes and they have their textures on it, and it doesn't look like much, right? It looks like a flat image. That doesn't look like a pocket. We're going to add some shadows to it to make it look a little more dimensional and realistic, okay? And that's super simple. So we are going to turn on that layer and select it. We're working with our long pocket. We're going to expand that. There's a little arrow here, and all you do is tap on it, and it'll expand that layer group or that clipping mask, okay? We're going to tap on the texture that's there, and we're going to add a pixel layer, okay? The reason why I'm doing that is because I like to work non-destructively. So meaning whatever I add to that layer, I can change it, erase it, modify it, do whatever I want to it, and it's not going to affect the layer below it. So in this layer, I'm going to draw on some shadows. And if I don't like it, I can always erase it and not mess with the texture or the shape below it, okay? And because I put it into that clipping mask, it's only going to affect the layer below it and not anything else. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush tool. And you want to select a nice soft brush. So airbrush number 2 in your sprays and spatters is a really good brush for this. So you go ahead and tap on airbrush number 2. And in your settings over here on your left-hand side, the first one is going to control your size. The second one is going to control the flow of your brush. So meaning how much paint comes off of that brush, okay? And then this one is going to control your opacity and your accumulation of the paint coming off of that brush. I am going to go ahead and turn this down to about 25% should be okay. And I'm going to make my brush fairly big so I don't have to work as hard. Okay. I'm then going to go to my color bubble and use my color picker tool and pick up that green color. Then I'm going to move it down just a bit to darken it because I'm going to make some shadows and I want it to be noticeable, but still the same value of that green. Okay. Next, I am going to make sure that I am on that pixel layer that's above the texture and the shape. And I will just start right along the side, just adding a little bit of shadow. Doesn't have to be a lot. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And there we go. Now, it doesn't look like a lot, but if you turn that off and turn it on, you can see that it gave it more of a rounded appearance, okay? Brought some of those textures out, and it just looks better. Once you do that, what I want you to do is tap on the entire clipping mask group. So you're not on the pixel, you're not on the texture, you're on the entire main group of this. And we're gonna apply a drop shadow to this. So you're gonna go to your layer effects, you're gonna turn on outer shadow, tap on the outer shadow text, and here you're gonna have some sliders that are gonna control the direction that your shadow goes, how soft, how hard it is, and how intense it is, okay? Your opacity. So if you drag on your screen with your pencil, you can move the shadow anywhere. So I am going to go ahead and I want this one offset over to the right. And that looks good to me. And then you can bring this up to diffuse that shadow as much as you like it. And I'm going to input 30. That's going to be nice. And if you don't like how intense it looks, you can reduce the opacity. And 40 is going to be a good one for me. So now we created that drop shadow. And that just makes it a little more dimensional and it just looks a little bit more realistic. So again, this is what it looked like before, and now we gave it a little bit more dimension. Perfect. We are going to now repeat that process for the remainder of the 2 pockets. So we can turn on our medium pocket now, expand that. No, see, make sure you select the right one. Expand that, tap on that texture shape, plus, and insert a pixel layer. Make sure that you are on that pixel layer. Grab your brush tool. It is going to default to your last setting, so it's going to pick that color, the size, and your flow. And that's exactly what we want. And we're going to go ahead, while we have that pixel layer selected, we're going to draw in. Just glide your pencil over the edges and form that little bit of a shadow on the outside. If you've gone too far and you don't like the way that it looks, simply tap on your eraser tool and you can erase it away. And start again and go back to your brush and just glide your pencil through there. Very good. All right, now we are going to go back to our layer menu and tap on the entire clipping mask, not the pixel, not the shadows that we just did, not the background, but the entire group, okay? And we're going to apply that drop shadow again. So outer shadow, tap on text, and this one I want it to come up. So about right there is good. And I'm going to diffuse that out. let's go to 65, should be good. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of that just a tad so it's not as dark. And that will be that. And now we will do the same thing for our last pocket, our little guy here. So we're going to expand that. We're going to tap on pixel. We're going to hit plus, insert that pixel layer, grab our brush tool, create those shadows on the end. And this one, I'm actually going to do a little bit on the bottom too, to give it that dimension there at the bottom. And once you're happy with that, you're going to go over to your layer menu, tap on the entire clipping mask. And now I like the way the previous pocket shadows were, and that's exactly what I want to do for this one, because I want it to be up, not off to the side like our long pocket. So to make this really simple, what you will do is on your previous pocket that you already applied the shadows to that you like, you're going to tap on that group. You're going to hold down on the screen and hit copy, okay? And then you're going to tap on the short pocket that we're working on, and you're going to hold down on the screen and paste style. So what that did was it now just added that same shadow effects to that. So now our pockets are done, okay? So basically it's a lot of repetition, and I hope that that works for you, because the more you do something, the more it makes sense and it just becomes muscle memory. So in review, what we did here was we formed our shapes. We used a clipping mask to apply that texture to the shapes. And then we did some drop shadows to make it look a little bit more realistic. And we used a brush in order to paint on some curve to these pockets, okay? If you have any questions so far, please make sure you let me know, and I will help you get through this part of it. In the next video, we will do the background or the cover. All right, see you there. Bye.